Donald Trump is set to terminate the press rights of the New York Times and the Washington Post. These are two of the most important investigative media outlets in the Trump era. And because Donald Trump doesn't like them, he is now saying he will be terminating their White House press credentials. Now, one of the things it was going to be a focus, actually, of my keynote address at the Grassroots Radio Conference in Rochester, New York, a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, that event had to be canceled because I ended up in the hospital with an emergency appendectomy, and I was not able to give this talk. But I was going to focus on the strength of the attacks on media under the current administration. We've seen this concerted authoritarian disdain towards the media, everything from threatening libel lawsuits to proposing journalism licenses to talking about shutting down media outlets and should certain media outlets even be allowed to exist, which is a very authoritarian concept, even rising to the level of going after targeting, attacking individual journalists, some of whom have actually, as a result of being targeted by Donald Trump and the administration, been the target of physical violence at events and Trump rallies. And now Donald Trump, in a total gong show interview that ran an hour with his buddy Sean Hannity on Fox News last night, is saying that his administration will be terminating the press credentials of the New York Times and the Washington Post. Let's take a look at it. Sean Hannity, of course, just gushing and thrilled. Hell, it might even have been Sean Hannity's idea that Donald Trump do this. We know that Hannity frequently talks to Donald Trump before Trump goes to bed. Extraordinarily romantic, isn't it? Let's take a look.
Corruption. That's something has to be investigated. That's what you have to look. But I watched this crazy Anderson Cooper the other day during the debate. Apologize for having to ask the question to them. Apologize. If that were me...
He declared his innocence.
If that were my sons that took $168,000 from this very questionable company, an energy company, and they knew nothing about energy at all. He knew nothing about energy, and he has a bad record, bad track record, including getting thrown out of the Navy. And even the way he got in the Navy is interesting in his position. If that were Don Jr., if that were Eric Trump, who are very outstanding young men, it would be the biggest story of the century.
And what does it say about the media? I agree with you.
The media is corrupt. Not all media is. Look, I know some great people, including you, but I know some great journalists. Look, they gave Pulitzer Prizes to people that got it wrong. Okay? All these people from the New York Times, which is a fake newspaper. We don't even want it in the White House anymore. We're going to probably terminate that in the Washington Post. They're fake. But you take a look at the New York Times, and you take a look at the kind of reporting they do, it turned out to be all wrong.
Now, you can probably guess that everything Trump said there is a lie, but I want to focus in specifically on the media attacks. You know, he talks about crazy Anderson Cooper, again, another example of targeting specific journalists. He throws Hunter Biden under the bus. I thought that the children of elected officials were off limits, but then it's the big media attack, the corrupt media. We need to terminate the New York Times and the Washington Post. Now, I don't believe that he is saying he needs to terminate them as entities, although he's alluded to shutting down media outlets in the past. It's pretty clear that what he means is terminating their access to White House press briefings, which, by the way, there hasn't been one for 9 months, and, traveling with the president and this type of thing. This is how tyranny slowly starts to reign. This is how authoritarianism develops. And the pro-gun people always talk about, we need our handguns and rifles to protect ourselves from a government that becomes tyrannical, that may use tanks or whatever else. In the modern era, purported ostensible democracies like the United States, they rarely become authoritarian or tyrannical, to borrow the word that the right-wing gun people like to use, in this cartoonish tanks on the street way, although Trump has talked about wanting a parade with tanks. They tend to become more quietly tyrannical by attacking press freedom, by limiting the access of media outlets that they don't like, by turning public opinion against individual journalists. And I don't see a single one of them saying, we've got to defend freedom of the press with those firearms. Yes, a free press when the president likes what the press is saying. And you will hear the defense that, hold on a second, David, he's not shutting down the New York Times. He's not shutting down the Washington Post. They're just merely going to lose their White House credentials. We're experiencing such scandal fatigue that I don't believe we are understanding the gravity of what Donald Trump is promising to do here in his interview with Sean Hannity. There are times in American history where a president specifically targeting the press credentials of individual media outlets that they don't like would be considered impeachable. But due to scandal fatigue, due to the desensitization that we have experienced as a result of the outrageous acts of this administration, this is an authoritarian nightmare that is going wholly unnoticed, and it is being backed implicitly and or explicitly by the Republican Senate, which is another issue that we've been talking about, which I won't divert into today. And much like with the ignored impeachment subpoenas that I talked about earlier in today's program, there is zero indication, there is no indication that this is going to have consequences unless, and this is why I keep talking about it, and I actually got some emails this week saying, David, it doesn't matter that you're repeating yourself like a broken record, you need to keep talking about this. There may be no consequences to any of this unless we vote him out in November of 2020. It's barely 12 months away because they're ignoring the subpoenas and getting away with it. They are going after media outlets and getting away with it. They are terminating press credentials and getting away with it. And there may be the only hope of voting this out in November of 2020.